to have that as their guiding principle. They do not seem to be as concerned with counting every vote as getting it done on time. We're in favor of getting it on time, but we are much more in favor of counting every vote. So when Bill Cowell sends me here to tell you that is what we're going to do, you can take it to the bank. If we are done when we're supposed to be done, and we have every belief we will be, it will be not because we cut corners and not because we listen to other distractions. It's because we did it. We've counted every vote, and that's what we're currently going to do. All right, that's half the mission. Now, once we count all those votes and we send them to the state will get all 67 counties' results together, and they will then decide if it is dropped from 0.5% to now 0.25%. So if the race is within that 0.25%, then we move on to the manual recount. We're not going to manually look at every ballot. The statute says we look at these things called overvotes and undervotes. And so you'll hear this phrase when you hear it on the news. What in the world is an undervote and an overvote? When you cast your ballot, it tells you bubble in your candidate of choice. That seems like a pretty easy instruction. Sometimes people get too enthusiastic, and they vote for both candidates. That would be called an overvote. You have counted for too many candidates. But sometimes what looks like the scanner as an overvote isn't. It's really that someone bubbled in the wrong choice, realized they bubbled in the wrong choice, put an X through it, and then they bubbled in the right choice. Okay, the scanner says that that was an overvote, but now we get the opportunity to look ballot by ballot and see whether or not that was really a vote for a candidate. And if it was, we're going to count every vote, including that one. So we will go through the process on the overvotes. We will go through the process on the undervotes. The undervotes is the exact opposite. That is when someone votes for nobody. And you know what? There are races, what we call down ballot races for a commissioner or a school board member that you might not get to, or an amendment that you just didn't have an interest in. And I'm going to end talking about one of those amendments. But if they don't vote for one, that's fine. That's your choice as an American citizen and as a voter. You don't have to vote for every race. But to not vote for governor? That's an interesting choice. So we want to look at all of those votes, and we want to see if maybe they just missed the bubble, but they shaded below it, or maybe they put a check mark next to the name, or maybe they circled the candidate's name instead of the bubble. Voters, please just circle the oval. I'm telling you. But we want to count the votes for those who didn't, because our mission, again, is to count every vote. So we will get the chance to do that. Now, it's possible that that does not start on November 15th. While we in Orange County intend to finish that process, there are counties who have made it clear that this is not a realistic timeline to complete 3 statewide machine recounts. There's only so fast these ballots can go through, and you need to do it right. So we have been told that there is already one lawsuit that has worked, where a federal judge has said that an extension of time will be given to one county. We do not know whether that will apply to other counties at this time, but that may delay this process. While I'm normally not in favor of delay, anything that gives us more time to do our jobs, to do it the right way, and not have every worker working that they've been working off the clock since the 22nd of October, if we can do it with a little more procedure, that would be a good thing. So, long story short is we will have a manual recount for those races that are below 0.25, and we will ensure that every vote gets counted. So I will leave you also with this. There was one other vote of great importance to this community, to all the state of Florida, and that was Amendment 4. Just like a certain candidate got over 60% in Orange County, so Amendment 4 got over 60% across the whole state. And your supervisor of elections was always in favor of this. To be fair, Mike Ertel, Republican supervisor of elections for Seminole County, also supporting it. That's because the right to vote shouldn't be a Democratic thing. It shouldn't be a Republican thing. It should be an American thing. So once the dust is settled on this election and all of these results are final, then anybody who has been previously convicted of a felony, if they have completed the terms of their sentence, their jail time, any probation, any restitution, whatever, all of the terms of their sentence, if they have completed those, then this amendment says their rights to vote have been restored. So help everyone get registered to vote, because if they weren't before, they may be now. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
It gives me great pleasure and privilege to do this once again. I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to stand in Majestic Life Church and present a phenomenal entrepreneur, the person who married his high school sweetheart, the father of wonderful children, and the son of great parents. He shows himself also as a person who has a philanthropic heart in his missions in Africa and overseas. I present to you the person I voted for Lieutenant Governor Chris King.
Well, thank you, Pastor Gray. Thank you, St. Mark. It is a delight to be back here. The last time I was here, I was with the Reverend Jesse Jackson in your pulpit, and that was a thrill. I see so many of you who have been friends, who have been supporters, who have loved Andrew and I well through this process. My parents are here with me, some of our senior staff. I see representatives from the Christian community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community, reflective of the fact that this was a big campaign that served a lot of people. And I have to say right from the start, we are so grateful for the role that the church played, Pastor Gray, in this campaign. Early on, we've been doing this for almost 21 months, if you can imagine. And early on, I began spending my Sundays, just as I had all my life, going to church, but I always just went to one church. Now I was going to 3, 4, 5, 6 a Sunday. And Pastor Gray, I would sit through sermons all across the state of Florida. I've probably been to 150 or 200 churches across Florida. And it was the African American church that embraced me and embraced Andrew and protected us and loved us through this process. And so, thank you. We are honored by your presence, and we are doing what we have attempted to do throughout this entire campaign for governor and lieutenant governor, and that is not just win an election, but transform a state. To try to make Florida a better place for all of our citizens to live in. You know, Andrew and I, when we ran for office, I think we both shared the same sense of call. We both felt called by our Lord for such a time as this to move the needle in Florida for all of the families that were falling through the cracks. As Andrew often says, you know, the wealthy and well-connected had an advocate and a champion. We needed everybody else to have a champion. And when I look out at this community, I think about the fact, you know, we would love to be in a slightly different place right now than we are. But we know that soon and very soon, God is going to show up in an amazing way. And Andrew says this often, but we're not just doing what we're doing for us, for our success, for our win, for this moment. We're doing it for all those who may come after us. Because we know, and I think Dr. King said it well, that the arc of the moral universe is long but bends towards justice. What about our story is going to help somebody else achieve their story? I wasn't planning on doing this, but I look down and I see LaVon Bracey. LaVon Bracey integrated a school 33 years ago. The first African-American graduate of the school, wait a second, of the school that 33 years later Andrew Gillum would graduate from. Talk about the type of story where her story made his story possible. What story will Andrew Gillum make possible for young people of color, all across the state of Florida and around the nation? Someone asked me after the election, they said, Chris, you've gotten to know Andrew. You have competed against him for 18 months, and then you were his partner for 2 months. And you often talk about coming to care for Andrew Gillum. I've talked about the moment he asked me. He asked me to come up to Tallahassee, my wife and I, and he asked me to be his partner. And he didn't ask for a lieutenant governor. He asked for a friend and a brother and somebody who would have his back throughout whatever would come. I gave him my word that I would have it in this election and with whatever comes after. But somebody asked me, they said, what do you really think about Andrew Gillum? You know, what would you've gotten up close and personal. People are talking about him all across the nation. How do you sum up Andrew Gillum? And what I would say is that Andrew Gillum is exceptional. He is exceptional. He combines that rare quality of an extraordinary mind with a heart for people, an ability to cast a vision for the state of Florida, which is less about him and more about what he can do and wants to do to